It is my pleasure to welcome Alexander Aksenov from the Blinc Group, universally known as Sasha. Welcome.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning, everyone.
So thank you. You are joining us from the East Coast. You're based in New York City.
Yep.
Is that where I'm reaching you today?
Yep, absolutely.
Fantastic. I am still in Las Vegas. I never made my way home after MJ BizCon. So the first thing I'll say is, how was your MJ BizCon this year?
I think this was one of the best MJ BizCons we've ever been to. I think it's partially because people just were craving getting to get out of the house and get out on the road. First big show of the year. I think the turnout was absolutely amazing. It was fantastic to see all the faces that I haven't seen in over a year and a half. Although we're very active and we're all over the country, we haven't had much FaceTime, and this was a remarkable experience. We brought out our entire North American team, everyone who could come to Las Vegas this year. And it was fantastic to see just how big the Blinc Can got.
It is. I ran into you a couple of times, and you guys filled up 2 cabanas at the Fairchild party. You had a big presence all over Las Vegas. What are you up to? Like, you brought like 17, 18 people? Is that kind of what my count was?
Something like that, yeah. Something like that.
So fantastic. So that means business is good. So that's a nice segue into, I want to talk about the state of vape in the cannabis industry. And let me just do some kind of level setting. So, from a volumetrics, gross sales perspective, vape is trending in legal cannabis. It's a growing segment in a growing market. And yet it's facing some challenges in terms of the United States Postal Service is putting restrictions on the mailing of vape. And, the Chinese production has put a challenge. What's your thoughts there?
So, yeah, absolutely. Let's dive into that. So first and foremost, vape has always had its challenges. Since the beginnings, since the early 2000s, and we're used to that. And the name of the game in vape, in cannabis vaping specifically, is knowing what's coming, knowing what lies ahead, and that's where Blinc Group always shined. Dave, quite well, since day one, and quite well that was one of our strong suites, and that's one of the foundational principles of Blinc, is planning ahead. Not 2 days ahead, but 3 years ahead.
So tell me how you're addressing those two things, and I'll go in inverse order. So COVID sort of started a backlog in Chinese manufacturing, yep. And now we have a supply chain backup that's miles off of the West Coast, and that's affecting shelves of every kind of product. Tell me how that's affecting your business and what you've done to anticipate that.
It's not just the cannabis industry, not just vaping, not just the cannabis industry. The entire world, the entire manufacturing world is affected. Certainly, we are seeing longer shipping times and delays in logistics. Certainly, we're seeing definitely seeing and feeling the shortages on a supply chain, but the way we've managed supply chain and logistics from day one is by managing it ourselves. We have our own teams in China and our own preferred vendors in China, with whom we have relationships. We're not just calling the lowest bidder. We have companies and manufacturers and raw material suppliers in China that are audited by us, that we have a relationship with, and that we are on a first name basis with, and we're able to control control our timelines and control our production for months and years ahead. We're fortunate enough to have enough supply to push through COVID times, and then further on to push through these delays.
So if I saw the Blinc Group at MJ BizCon this past week and placed an order, how quickly would I be able to to get my carts?
Depending on complexity of the order, anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks.
So that's not bad, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean,
and what the other innovation that you've done, because there's been two, I mean, as you said, the vape industry has been fraught with challenges. One of those challenges has just been the quality of the carts themselves. You and I and Arno and the Blinc Group have been talking about just that, everything from the raw materials used, the wicking, the quality control. Tell me how that brought you to your new Halo system and where the innovation is there.
well, everything is about informing the experience, right? And the Halo system does just that. We've seen a lot of our clients in that order in huge volumes, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, order blank carts. And by blank cart, I mean a Blinc blank cart. It's properly branded. It's well differentiated as far as form factor. It has the logo imprinted on it, period, end of story. And all of us had the experience of opening up our drawer or our stash box and trying to figure out which cart is what, which one is an indica, which one is sativa, which one's live, and not having a clue because you throw out the box. The reality is 80% of products out there in any dispensary, once you pull it out of the box, you throw away the box, you have no idea what it is.
That's right.
That's a very big problem. As we are evolving it as an industry, as we're maturing as an industry, more is expected from us. And one of those key factors is informing the consumer experience. The reason these major brands, it's not an oversight, right? It's a business decision. The reason they haven't imprinted a strain per cart, you order 1 million carts, you order 250,000 of each. Of your 4 strains, let's say, right? And one of them is not performing. What happens? You're stuck with 250,000 carts that you can't use. That's $500,000.
That's a lot of investment to throw away on bad packaging. That's right.
And considering how fast our industry is moving and how fast trends are changing, you don't know what's going to happen at the point of sale in 3 months from now when your product is on the shelves. So that's why they've reverted back to, let's just put the information on the packaging and not on the cart, because once you imprint the cart, it's over. So we've given them, with the Halo system, we're giving our clients the flexibility of pivoting on the fly if needed, and also informing the experience for pennies, not dollars, right? As I like to say.
So informing the experience is another way of just saying branding the experience, right?
Correct. Saying what is in the cart on the cart itself.
Right. So you have instead of these manufacturers having to replace the entire branded cart if they've misjudged their strains.
They pull the halo off of the mouthpiece, off of the base of the cart, and they replace them. That costs pennies.
That's right. And then you're working on the automation. How do I change tens of thousands of Halo units?
So these halos are delivered in trays of 50s or 100, depending on what automation equipment you're using. They are pressed on using a standard press that every operation that has automation in check has. And our team comes in, trains, helps you create SOPs and make sure you have a smooth transition from your standard ceramic mouthpiece to a Halo mouthpiece.
I love it. And so what's the market reaction to that?
Oh, it's been absolutely astonishing. I think this is the right product at the right time. I think the market is ready for it, understands the need to inform the consumer, and understands the need for the differentiation at the point of sale. And absolutely, probably 95% of our conversations at MJ Biz and all the other shows that we've done have been about the Halo system.
About the Halo system, about branding, because we're at that stage. I mean, 7-8 years ago when we started, it was just about getting product to market efficiently. And now we're really talking about establishing your presence at retail. So differentiating there at retail, where branding is key and packaging is key to grab the attention of the consumer and inspire purchase, but also then directly to the consumer themselves, so that they come to the dispensary looking for that brand. Branding isn't something that's new for you, Sasha. So you grew up in the branding
Yep.
industry. You had the brand lab, and you had huge clients like Lufthansa and Harley Davidson. Tell me a little bit about how you made it from New York City branding, big time branding agency to Cannabis Vape.
Well, among many verticals that we were serving, healthcare, pharmaceutical, travel and tourism, CPG, one of the verticals was vaping, and it was nicotine vaping and cannabis vaping when, in late 2008, 2009. And cannabis vaping hardware back then, we were already a big agency on the nicotine side, but on the cannabis side, we were just evolving, and we're working with a few clients. And cannabis vaping was nowhere. It was horrific. It was, plastic and wick carts, the G cart, and all of that rubbish that people were attaching to, giant mods that were made for nicotine vaping that weren't even that wouldn't even go down to the wattage and voltage and the heat settings that you need for a cartridge to perform. For a normal cartridge to perform, much, we're not even speaking about a wick cart, which is, like a no. And we've seen all that, and we've understood that that there's first and foremost a giant opportunity for evolution of product, and bringing the depth of knowledge that we've had, both myself and Arno, in vaping technology and in vape safety and vape innovation to the cannabis industry. And I mean, my relationship with cannabis. So this is something.
Well, so that's interesting. I mean, on one side, Arno, and we do want to get Arno Dumas-Durale here on the MJ Channel 1 to talk about those standards. He's former head of ISO out there, and has been active both on the tobacco side and then the cannabis side on vaping. But I really want to kind of drill down into, because you touched it, the product innovation. So in vape is a new product category. It's unlike flower or pre-rolls, right? Where OGs like us have been smoking weed for a long time, and those form factors were well known. But vaping was something that was new, and so you had to educate the consumer about, well, what should we be looking for in a vape, in a cart, in a battery, and how do we manage the heat settings? And then, the form factor, it's almost a fashion business, where you want a vaporizer that fits in your pocket or fits in your purse or looks good on your next to your key fob. Talk a little bit about, building a new market wholesale while the technology is evolving, while the standards are evolving, while the consumer consumption patterns are evolving.
Sure. So walk into any dispensary, take 10 carts out of their boxes and put them on a shelf, step back 3 feet. What do you see? You see a whole bunch of 1 grams and half grams with white or black ceramic mouthpiece.
Right.
For some reason, that became a default. And we're not the smartest guys in the room. A lot of people have realized that. A lot of people have taste, and a lot of people have the feel for the marketplace. And we, as an industry, quickly understood that form factor is the big differentiator at the point of sale and point of use. And hey, what are you vaping on? And it's a giant talking point in social settings.
Right.
And the more unique that form factor is, the more conversation and hype you build around your product. So something we've been doing since day one, as you know, is enterprise level product development for a lot of our key clients that are ready.
So white labeling, essentially.
Not white labeling, completely proprietary product development. Like these things, and a lot of things that we've done with.
So exclusive technology for partners.
Technology, right? So this is like the absolute.
So describe, articulate
right?
for us. Give me an example of one of those deals that you've done.
I mean, if One you know very well is Her Highness.
Okay.
With a vape pen that was made for women by women. They were very specific about the specs, about how they wanted it to look. They wanted it to look very elegant and thin. And one of their specs was we want it to be no more than 8 millimeters in diameter. But a standard coil is 7.5 millimeters, so you don't have enough room for oil. So that was a huge challenge. But it doesn't seem like a lot, right? It seems like a standard cart on a standard battery, and it's gold, and it's all uniform, and it's wonderful, and it's gorgeous, has nice weight to it, nice features. But you take a man's hand or a woman's hand, and you really dive in depth and understand how a person, a human being, your target audience, specific segment of an audience within an audience interacts with a device and what they expect from the device, and how do you make that experience better, more tactile, more personal. That's what the ladies at Her Highness did before they walked into our office and said, we want exactly this.
So that was kind of like a lifestyle product development, and you did that in-house. That's like what we used to do in traditional marketing, product development back in corporate days. Yep,
absolutely. So and many other products like that we've rolled out that were maybe based on an idea that was out there in the market, right? Maybe they came in and said, we like this feature of a puff mod, but our form factor is diamond shaped or jewel shaped. And we want this whole thing to be a jewel box. So we've done that. We've done a lot of those. Or people come in and say, I have a dream and I want a device that does A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So that's those crazy innovators, those crazy dreamers are actually the future of where I think the cannabis industry is going, because that type of differentiation, that scale of differentiation of product, not just slapping your logo on a commoditized cart or battery or disposable, is what's going to be 2022, 2023. That's what's going to be about.
So after you've designed these innovative, fashion-like form factors and products, are you involved in the marketing of it? Are you involved in helping them to create that brand collateral and those various campaigns? Because ultimately, one is let's create the right product, but then you have to articulate that first to retailers and then ultimately direct to the consumer themselves, so that they know to come in and they recognize the innovation when they see it.
Early on, we've realized that creating a safe, compliant, innovative cartridge or pod or disposable technology is cool. But as you said, this is a very, very new, very fresh industry. We're not even out of the gate yet. I always say that there are no OGs in the vape business for sure, and nobody knows what to do with it. So we've realized that probably Q1 of our existence. So we've created a full suite of services around our products to enable everything from formulation all the way to final retail and product support and everything in between. So we are the team that plugs any hole that you have, whether it's automation, filling, capping, SOPs, marketing, PR, packaging design, branding.
So SOPs all the way down to the manufacturing. And then are you gathering analytics all along this production chain, Sasha? And how are you using analytics to inform these decisions at those crucial junctures?
Well, we're gathering analytics on everything from when we get the raw material to when we deliver the product to our clients. After that, that's our client's job and prerogative. So as far as how we use analytics, I've been very big on failure rate and on quality of the end product since day one. We've had these conversations many a times, you and I, Dave.
Yeah.
And that's the data that we look for on everything from raw material to assembly to final testing to logistics, to how our clients are interacting with the product, how are they filling it, how are they capping it, how are they storing it, how are they transporting it. All of those factors, there are so many factors that could have it, that could make a device go wrong, or clog, or leak, or just destroy what's in the device just due to bad transport or bad storage. And that's what we look for, and we create basically guideline documents for each and every process for each and every one of our clients, down to the point where our customer success team goes on the ground to train and implement proper SOPs to ensure that perfect end user experience. Because after all, everything that we do, everything that our clients do, does not matter if the end consumer is not satisfied with their experience. That might be because the product is shit, or the hardware is shit, or it was improperly informed, or they have no idea what to do with it. So it is our job to make sure that all of those points are being hit.
So let's talk a little bit about, I mean, one of the challenges of consistent product is that, we live in a balkanized universe where, every market is a little bit different. All the producer processors are a little different, and the legislation and regulations are a little bit different. How involved are you in building standards, setting standards, in the whole legal lobbying process?
We're extremely involved since day one. Arno very well, my founding partner and our CEO, that's been his wheelhouse for 2 decades now, when it comes to vaping and when it comes to safety and compliance. We work with many states, with many regulatory bodies, including Washington, including those who are not letting us get up to speed. And trying to educate them and trying to provide them with the right information and data, from on anything from regulating emissions to THC caps.
Right.
But I would love for you to speak to Arno about.
Yeah, so I will, but I wanted to I kind of really wanted specifically to talk about the standards as part of the product development. One of the things that you're seeing in the marketplace is things like clean green and organic cannabis and kosher cannabis. So folks are cautious about, and particularly when you get into oil and concentrates and vapes, the manufacturing process is not always regulated, and in terms of spot testing, we've revealed all kinds of challenges, let's just put it that way, in the marketplace. So it comes, what the reaction is that the consumer has doubts about the safety of vaping cannabis, and then it translates into pop culture memes. Last weekend on Saturday night, the devil in costume on the news show said, "Hey, I take credit for vaping. That was one of my better works." Right. So that's not good for the industry. And so that's really why I want to talk about, okay, so you as one of those leading innovators, how are you going to address and make sure that people feel that no matter where they buy their cannabis vape cart, it will be safe?
Well, first and foremost, we've been addressing these issues head on. We've been always transparent about the threats of vaping, the threats and challenges of improper hardware, of inexistent. Back when we started 5-6 years ago, there was no testing at all. Forget
Zero.
hardware or oil or emissions. And we've always said that we have to test the final product, and the final product is the vapor that comes out of oil in cartridge, and it has to be processed, and it has to be tested with different user profiles, because your puff and my puff are completely different, and we'll have completely different emissions based on the temperature which I get my auto fire battery up to, right? So We've been very transparent about all of that. And Powered by Blinc is actually all about that. Our Powered by Blinc tag and brand that is on every package of most of our clients' hardware. There's any pod or cartridge that you take that's powered by Blinc has a 13 digit serial number at the bottom, which gives you complete transparency on everything from where the raw material was sourced, just the material itself, the raw material, and all the way to the final end product destination, and every single touch point in between. Who touched it on the line, and who assembled it, who was the factory, what are their certifications of CGMP, ISO 13485, and so on and so forth. Are they a pharmaceutical grade facility? Are they do they assemble these things in clean rooms, or has my device been assembled in a garage?
So every product has a tracking from the beginning of the manufacture all the way down to consumption. And so if I'm a retailer, where do I go? And if I'm a consumer, how do I use that unique ID?
So a retail consumer actually obviously gets it through the retailer, and the retailer gets it through our clients who are the distributors of their.
I mean, where do I check if I buy? If I look at my.
This is something that we're trying to scale, and we're encouraging clients to share share publicly, to share their ID publicly, and as we scale adoption of the Powered by Blinc system, the end consumers will have or can have access to the entire value chain, and they will have complete transparency. Can have complete transparency on where the product came from that they're putting in their mouth and their lungs. Right. So that's what we're, I'm sure you've seen, you've been following Blinc since day one. I'm sure you've seen that we're heavy on the Powered by Blinc message. And that's what we're trying to get out there. That's the value. That transparency is a cornerstone of any brand that will make it past 2 years from now. I mean, if that's not your goal, that's not your goal. And there's a lot of those guys in our industry. We know that. But most of our clients.
But you're here for the long. You're here for the long term. So I guess two things I want to ask you, and then I'll let you kind of take us home. One, I want to talk about sort of what are we going to see in the next 12 months. From a, my audience is really folks in the industry. So if I'm a licensee or if I'm an investor in cannabis and I'm looking at the vapor space, what are some trends that I should be aware of?
Sure. So as we've seen in California and Colorado and Ohio and Oklahoma and so on and so forth, in Michigan, the regulations will be evolving and will become more stringent. We're praying for unified regulations, but we're far from that. And the demand for transparency on not just the hardware, but the final product, the end product, and the emissions will be far more stringent. Therefore, sourcing your hardware from a supplier or from a manufacturer that is held liable, that is reliable, and that you can lean on is absolutely paramount. And sometimes that difference is about 10 cents. So think about that.
That's right. Because margins are small and getting smaller as competition and the industry grows.
Yeah. But
so you talked about SOPs. It really is about efficiency at every step along that supply chain.
A failure rate of 5% versus failure rate of 0.1, like we have, is a very big difference.
That's a big deal when you scale it.
You find out when the oil is already in your 100,000 carts. That's a lot of money.
That's right. Exactly. You scale that up, and
oil already got to your distributor, and some of it already got to your retailer, and some of it got to the consumer with your brand on it.
Yeah.
Think about all that damage over 10 cents. So
no. And that was the experience early on, right? We had a lot of failed carts. I had a lot of ruined shirts and jeans with oil leaking all over them, or you'd hit them and they would clog up. They wouldn't work. The hardy consumer has stuck through over the last 5 or 6 years and really seen some innovation. All right. So the last thing I want to ask before I turn it over to your, free subject is, you're in New York City, and for
Yeah.
me, New York City is the most exciting, or one of the most exciting cannabis markets, both just because New York City is just so damn exciting, but also because it's the home of marketing, it's the home of entertainment, it's the home of culture. And New York, after a lot of kicking it down the can, is starting to get its act together. Give me a report from what's going on in the Big Apple.
As you can imagine, as in any new market, there's a lot of kind of curious. Although New York is by far not a new market, it's probably the biggest cannabis consumption market in the world. As you know, I've seen little meetup events go from 20 people to 300 people overnight in New York and in New Jersey and all the way out to Connecticut. And everybody and their mother wants to get into it, and nobody knows how. So there's a lot of education to be done in New York. There's a lot of regulations to be put in place in New York in order for New York to evolve properly and learn its lessons from other recreational markets that have done it wrong to begin with, and then have been trying to correct their ways. I am, for one, I'm superbly excited about New York going rec. I can't wait to see dispensaries popping up around the corner here at my house in Long Island, and around the corner of my office in New York City. And I think
and the events too, right? I mean, friends like the Happy Monkey are tying in with the immersive Van Gogh experience. I was just here in Vegas, going to Meow Wolf. I mean, we're really seeing entertainment evolve, whether that's museums or games or movies or live music experiences, to tailoring to that cannabis consumer. And I know your background, you've got a lot of background in entertainment and got a lot of music friends.
Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of events, a lot of culinary events, music events. We have seen lounges pop up, art shows, experiential shows, immersive shows. It's absolutely fantastic to see. And what's wonderful is how the public is reacting to it. Right? It's not just people like us, but the entire New York City is kind of curious. And like you can't speak to 10 people not to find 8 that are superbly curious and can't wait to walk into a dispensary around the corner one day. And that's coming down a pipe. And I think within the next year or two, we're going to see a huge spike in New York market, in the legal New York market.
Right. And then Connecticut and New Jersey will only increase that because the tri-state area really operates as kind of one ecosystem. Fantastic. So it's going to be an exciting year. You're optimistic about 2022. Last words, Sasha, the Blinc Group, take us home.
Build safe products, differentiate your products, and think more than a month ahead. Because this industry has not gotten out of the gate. There's no OGs. We have not done anything. We have not succeeded. We're going to succeed 3, 5, 10 years from now. And that's when real brands will emerge. So think about that.
Fantastic. And I know you will be there in 3 or 5 or 10 years. And I hope I have the privilege of being there to chronicle and witness it. Sasha Aksenov, thank you so much for joining us on Marijuana Channel 1. And I look forward to doing frequent updates as your progress and as the Blinc Group evolves.
Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you for the opportunity. Thanks, everyone. And please feel free to ask me any questions. Dave, feel free to drop my email in the description. If anyone has any questions or needs any help, this is what the Blinc Group has been here for since day one. We're here to support the industry and support the healthy growth.
And you're at theblincgroup.com.
Correct.
Awesome.
Sasha at theblincgroup.com. Feel free to email me anytime.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Until the next episode, this is Dave Rhines from Marijuana Channel 1. Cheers.